I guess I have the floor. Obviously disappointed after the Oklahoma game. Knew that it was going to be a difficult game. Obviously, their tradition, their history, their expenditures, everything said that it was going to be difficult. But I did hope that the game was going to be more competitive than what it was. I liked what happened in the first half, quite honestly. The second half kind of got away from us for a couple of reasons. I think Oklahoma's tempo on defense, or their offense against our defense, kind of started wearing us down just a little bit. Weren't tackling quite as well. And then our lack of production on offense. Couldn't quite do some of the things that we'd kind of game planned. I was very impressed with Oklahoma's players. Athletically, I thought next to probably LSU from 3 years ago, probably the most athletic group of guys that we've seen. And I like their new schemes. We knew going in that we were going to get a lot of changes structurally. And I think that what they're trying to do on offense and defense right now is really a great fit for their personnel. And so my hat's off to them. Like to play the game again. Obviously, that's not possible. And so we've got to kind of grow from it, from the experience. The nice thing was the locker room was tremendously disappointed afterwards. And that's those are really good things for our program. I've been in locker rooms here before where after a loss against a ranked opponent, it was almost like there was an expectation that there was going to be a loss. And this group expected to win. Proud of them for that. Thought we played hard. And so now we just, like I said, we kind of got to grow up and we got to get better from the experience. But the fact that we're feeling like that after a loss against a very, very good tradition-rich program says an awful lot about kind of where we're at right now. And so I'm pleased with that. Very, very pleased with Justin Manton. His ability to flip the field during that game was a weapon that we haven't had in a long time. 46-yard average, kicked off out of the end zone, at the back of the end zone. Those are great things for us because those are the things we've been missing. I do think that there's going to be an extreme focus, obviously, in practice this week on getting better. And I think that for the most part, missed assignments were minimal. Some of the things that plague early ball games were not there for us. We didn't have a lot of penalties. We had the one turnover. And I think, there's even some I can even look and say, okay, I understand why this happened. It wasn't a fundamental error. And so we'll, as we already have, we already started practice, obviously, on this upcoming opponent, and excited about playing at home. We don't get very many of those opportunities during the season, and so we need to take advantage of this opportunity to play at home in front of our home crowd. Questions?
Any fear when you have a team coming in like Grambling, it's a SWAC school, might not get the respect by your players?
I would hope that our guys, as I mentioned kind of last week, Aaron, that I don't think our guys really care about who they're playing. And then again, this is something that is, I think, a cultural thing in relation to what you're wanting to get from a program standpoint, to where you've established this culture within your program that it's all about the standard of performance, and it's not about who you play. I think we've preached it so much that I think our players are just the opportunity to play is what's significant. And so I would hope that it wouldn't make any difference who we played this week or who we played last week, that we're going to see our football team come out and try to play the best that they can possibly play.
Status quo and Brown?
Probably, I don't know. It's hard to put percentages on it. Could he play? Yes. Is he effective right now? No. So could this change by game time? Yeah. I mean, what he has, what Brayley Brown has right now are both things that, by Saturday they could be 100% feeling good. And it's kind of hard to gauge these type of injuries along those lines.
Does that make you nervous? No, you might have to stick in a third-string quarterback.
Yeah, it made me real nervous in the Oklahoma game in particular, and obviously it would this week too. But one of the things that it changed, obviously we had some things that we were kind of working in that first quarter against Oklahoma, and we kind of had to get away from some of those things because you were just one more snap away from an exposure that could have been a really, really bad one for the whole season. And we had to lean a little bit more on our offensive line, on our running backs during that time frame. And, we haven't really built our team for to be that physical downhill team. Could we switch gears? Yeah. But we built this around kind of our quarterback, and rightfully so. And so when all of a sudden we were kind of getting physically handled up front by their defensive line, whenever we tried to kind of change gears a little bit, and that's obviously one of the reasons for the lack of production.
Yesterday, Doug Williams says he's not a big fan of this series between ULM and Grambling. What's your take on Grambling taking on ULM on a regular basis? Well,
I didn't. Someone mentioned that right before we came in here. I didn't know that. Obviously, they'll be the judge on it. I would hate that. I think that in relation to proximity, I think it's a good thing. I've seen the financial contract. I think the financial contract is a very, very good contract, more than what we do with other FCS programs. I've been in this thing for 31 years, a lot of different places. I can't imagine that we could be any more accommodating than what we already have been. I've never in 31 years been around in a game or around a program where we, basically last game and this game really tried to bend over backwards to make sure that, give them their own tailgating spots. That generally doesn't happen, and some of those other kinds of things. And so we've tried to be good hosts, but obviously that's up to them in relation to whether they think it makes good sense.
He said there were some complaints and some concerns with the student body being right behind his team. Does that just come with the game atmosphere in college athletics, where the student body is that close to an opposing team?
Yeah, they were right on top of us at Oklahoma too. Most those SEC ones they're not very hospitable too. I mean, that's generally where the student body is generally behind the visitors, because they're generally away from the press box side. That's kind of the norm in relation to I think students are going to get rowdy every place that I've been. I don't know of any place that I haven't been. It kind of comes with college football. And we do our stadium is built, which I think is really nice, to where it has that railing to keep people from leaning over on top of you. I've been in a lot of stadiums, including the one last week, where they don't have a railing there, and so they can kind of lean over and pat you on top of the head if they think you're not doing as good a job as what you need to do, I guess, or whatever. So at least ours has that railing to keep kind of the student body back. There is some separation where a lot of the stadiums, the one at Wake Forest, we won't have any kind of backdrop. There's same in Oklahoma, Baylor. They're right on top of you there also, and so I don't know. I wasn't over on the sideline. I know what I've dealt with over 31 years of doing this.
Looking at the depth chart with Jyruss back in #1,
Mm-hmm.
I know that was, like you talked about last week, the amount of practice he was able to put in with fall camp and going into Oklahoma. Is he completely healthy at this point?
I don't know that he's completely healthy, but he's 99% healthy. So I think it's close enough. I mean, we'll have to get him back into a little bit of playing shape in terms of those kind of things, because obviously he's missed, a couple weeks here, but he has practiced. He practiced last week some and played just a little bit in the game the other night, and because I did want him kind of get a little bit more involved. But this week he'll take all the one snaps and kind of play himself back into playing shape.
You talked about the offensive line. You didn't like the term big boy, but against Oklahoma, where the running game really couldn't get started.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you really anxious to see what they can do this week, to have some film? And
yeah.
You talked about having such a grab bag of guys who can do things back there.
Yeah, I am. I'd like to get into, from a run game standpoint, I'd like for us to kind of get back to kind of what our identity is, rather than it being a little bit of a hodgepodge based off of who the running back was at the time. Oklahoma was playing a significant amount of man coverage, where they had an extra guy that they could drop down for the run game. And so there was always going to be a bonus hat. And sometimes the quarterback can take care of the bonus hat, but if the quarterbacks can't threaten, then all of a sudden the quarterback loses his viability in relation to being a guy that they have to account for. And probably one of the bigger things in the Oklahoma game was just that not very often do we find that our receivers can't separate. And our receivers could not separate against them. And we've got good receivers, because I've seen them separate against a lot of good people, a lot of good programs. And we could not separate in man coverage. And that created some problems, obviously, for us. But I would like to. I think there will be a significant challenge, because you've got Jyruss back, kind of get back to a little bit of kind of what the run game's kind of supposed to look like, and we'll see what Grambling decides to do, obviously, because we'd like to think that if they're going to give us the pass, we can throw it. And if they're going to give us the run, then we can run it. I mean, that's kind of what all offenses and defenses try to do, is say we've got to be able to stop both, or be able to do both.
Coach, you talked about this community rallying behind this program, and I guess this is another case this weekend, a home opener for you guys, an opportunity for the fans to really come out and support these guys and kind of take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think this is kind of that moment. I didn't necessarily mean to coin the phrase, but it seemed to get coined, was kind of seize the moment. I think we've got a very, very special team. And I think that our fan base can be very proud of these guys, both on the field and off the field, and all the things that they've accomplished, and what their expectations and aspirations are this year. And they've worked hard. And I know that it would mean an awful lot to them personally if they looked up there and they saw a lot of ULM faithful. And this group in particular, I think, has given a significant amount to the program, and in terms of some of these guys are, they've been 4-year starters for us for quite some time, and this is kind of their last go around. They're going to remember this game. They're going to remember all these games, but there's something about the opening game of your senior year at home and the ending game, the last game that you play. Those ones kind of get stuck in your mind, even when you're 52 years old. They're still stuck in my mind.
Before home openers last year, before Baylor set the record for most in Malone Stadium, it was Grambling in 07.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're opening up again against Grambling for the third time. But do you feel like this series has watered down just because of comments maybe made away from here, or because of, the separation between the two schools?
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't here, obviously, for the first one. I thought the one a couple years ago was, was a competitive game. Seemed to be a great environment. We had a lot of people after the game, because obviously with proximity, I know a lot of Grambling people, I know a lot of ULM people, and everybody just said how great the series was, how exciting it was, how fun it was to be in that environment. And as you well know, Tabby, I'm not. I generally don't read the paper or any of that kind of stuff. I don't listen to the news. Sorry, Aaron. I just kind of found that a lot of those things can be major distractions in terms of just doing what I think that is important and what we need to do from a program standpoint. And so, quite honestly, I haven't heard any of the comments, and I don't really know kind of any of the background on it. I know I've got a football team here that's worked hard and is really excited about being in a game this weekend, a home game at our place. And regardless of who it is, I think that we're going to be excited just because we have another chance to play. And if the opponent isn't excited, then I don't know what to do about it. We are, and so we're going to play.
I was looking at your captains for this week.
Uh-huh.
I talked about Manton already, but second week for him to be special teams captain, and what he did out there, this average, I think, what was it, 46?
46-yard average.
And for him to be, I know when he came in, you didn't want him to have to do both duties, but the fact that he's still doing those and flipping the field the way that he is, I know that at times your defense is in really bad field position trying to defend some things, but when he was able to get out there and flip the field, just how big was that?
It was huge. I mean, because, and that's something that it changes the game a little bit. It changes the way that I view the game, I should say, in the sense that 2 years ago, we had to rely on the defense. Last year we had to rely on the offense a little bit in terms of, we knew we were going to have to score some points, against some people. And I like both sides this year. I like our offense and I like our defense, and I think that the thing that we haven't necessarily had is that kicking game that basically complements both your offense and your defense, and that's kind of what it does. And that ability to be able to change the field as we were able to change the field. And even the one that was returned, even the punt that was returned, that's just because of missed tackles. We had a great coverage punt. I mean, we're down there on top of him and just missed tackles. And that's something that we got to fix. But again, if you're looking at from Justin's standpoint, it wasn't like it was a low line drive shot that all of a sudden this guy's got a head start with. And so I was excited going in. I've said this publicly. I said, I've said multiple times that I think Justin Manton is going to be a game changer this year. And I think that in the first ball game, he showed kind of what all that weight room workout has done for him. Because he drove that opening kick off out of the end zone, too, and that's so we're excited about that. Our special teams are significant to us having the ability to win, and our players know that. They take pride in it, and I think along with our offense and defense this year, we're going to have a special teams group that can make plays for us.
Coach, we all know football is a physical game, but you see a guy like Colton Brown, and of course he did the same everything right in an off-season game, like 15, 20 times, and then when in the first quarter he comes down with an injury. I mean, it hurts a little bit as a coach, I'm sure, to see somebody put in that work and right away out of the starting gate come out with an injury. Yeah,
it's crushing. I don't obviously hurt as much as a player does when they get injured, but don't think for 1 second that as coaches that we can't get caught up in it because we have to have that next man up mentality. But the reality is that there's no question that when stuff like that happens, that it does change your outlook on things, and especially with Colton. Not that Colton's any more special than any of our other players, but because Colton does some different things for our football team than other players can do, then it changes our game plan some. And we could do some other things, but then you're not allowing Colton to be as effective as what he can be. And I kind of choose to let Colton be pretty effective as he's demonstrated. So we'll, we shift and adjust, and that's kind of the nature of things. But there's no question that when one of your players gets injured, that it impacts you because you know how much work they've put in.
Coach, what were some of the lessons maybe you learned from last week to apply this week?
I'll probably not schedule Oklahoma home the very first ball game of the season.
But you said you wanted to play it again.
I do. I mean, I would, and I'm not saying we'd win. I'm just saying that I'd like to go into the thing with a little different situation, just to see how competitive we could be. Not saying we'd win, just saying I'd just like to see how much more competitive we could be if we were able to do some of the game plan that we would have liked to have done. I found out we've got some young players that really, really stepped up, and I was really excited about that. I needed to see Tevin Kagans run a guy down because I've seen it for a long time, and sure enough, on game day, he did it too. He ran a guy down. We had a number of young guys that I thought played pretty well. Lindsey Pipkins played real well. Justin Bacchus, I thought, played really well in a real tough environment against some really good receivers to get as many snaps as he got. And so pleased with that. Trey Martin came in and didn't blink. We also found we also had a few that got a little bit starry-eyed on us, and that's good to know too. Because now we know that in those really we need to get them some more experiences, and we need to kind of watch their exposures in terms of what they're doing out there, because I'm a believe what I see kind of guy, and so I think that those are the things that I think that you come out of every ball game with in terms of lessons that you're kind of looking for to kind of see here's what we've got to do better. Here's what our players are doing well.
I guess let's talk about Grambling. What have you seen on film with them, and maybe what things that they are on?
Yeah, it was tough video for us. Alabama A&M, who was their first opponent, they jumped out to a pretty good little lead there, and they're so much very different than us on offense and defense. Alabama A&M is, and so it makes it really difficult to get any kind of real. I have no clue what Grambling's going to do against us because our schemes are much different than what Alabama A&M was running.
Seeing so many FCS teams win the last week, do you have that thought in the back of your mind that we could be next?
No, I'm not into superstitions or there's conspiracy theories and all those other kinds of things. I just we know that we've got to play well in order to win, and so we're going to focus on ourselves playing well, and regardless of who the opponent is. And I know it's coach speak, and I've said it multiple times. I really don't care who we play. I just want to play, and I want our players to be that exact same way, where they don't care who they play. And so, in terms of obviously the FCS programs did a really nice job this last weekend. Is that some kind of BCS conspiracy theory that obviously I don't think that there's anything that's going along with that, and I think that you just got to show up and you got to play, and you can't be worried about who your opponent is.
Any other questions for Coach Berry?
All right, great. Appreciate it.
The Chief lives on.
What's that?
The Chief lives on.
The Chief lives on.
Where's the Chief?
First up, senior running back Jyruss Edwards.
Is that your batter's first year?
President. No.
Oh.
It's my President Wade.
I know, I was thinking you do it for
No. Good.
Floor is open for questions.
Finally able to get some snaps. How was that out there going true games week?
Oh, it felt real good. Just to be back out there with those guys, even though I didn't get to play as much as I would like to. As you all know, Coach Berry has a real strict policy about don't practice, you don't get to perform on Saturday. So I missed that deadline of practice. So this week, full effect, ready to go.
And Coach talked about y'all just so ready to play another game to kind of put that one in the past, and then like a win can cure things. But with the running game not being able to get off the way that y'all wanted it to against Oklahoma, how much more anxious is those guys in that room, and as well as yourself, to get out there and finally have someone maybe try to explode for some yards?
Very anxious. We're real excited about this week. Like you said, we didn't start off the way we wanted to, so just like last year, we always had a chip on our shoulder. We have a lot to prove in that one running back room to our team, to you guys, and our fans. So, I mean, we're very excited about this week, and we're going to try to put it on for everybody.
Like Coach Berry said, your senior year, you always remember that first home opener, and as great as last year was, just really anticipating we're playing a school right down the road and having that last first home game.
A great atmosphere, great environment, a lot of fan support. So, I mean, everybody anxious and excited to be back home. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that you've been waiting for, even though you don't look past any guy. I mean, Grambling, the first home opener, always in the back of your mind. So it's one of those things that you're really excited about.
So many people showed up last year for Baylor, and of course y'all had so much national recognition at that point after what y'all did in those first two ball games. But from the feedback that you've gotten and just like the fan base, do you feel like that they'll show up again?
Yeah, I mean, our fan base are some loyal, true fans. I don't think it just was a thing with us winning. I think they're on board and they're ready to go right with us. So it's just one of those things that we didn't perform last week the way we should, but I think those guys understand that we're a much better team than we showed. So they're coming out to still to support us.
know?
I actually do have friends, a couple of family members actually. Those guys, you know. I mean, we all competitors, so it's a lot of talking right now. It's a lot of this and that. But as Warhawks, we try to stay out of that type of lane. We try to stay in the lane of just being focused and letting our playing be out talking.
Do you have family members on the team?
I have a cousin on the team. Yes, I actually do. Bryce Williams. I think he's going to redshirt this year.
Is there any talking going on? Or is it like that week where you're playing each other, you talk like,
Probably one of those weeks. I'm good friends with the quarterback, so I mean it's a lot of Twitter. So I read things. That's all I can do is read. So I try to stay away from Twitter.
How do you know DJ so well with him growing up in Florida?
Actually, I know him from Baton Rouge. I went to camp with him in Baton Rouge. He comes down here a lot. He stopped by on campus. He's a real nice guy, nice fella, real humble. So I just know him from back home.
Any other questions for Jyruss?
No, I'll quit hogging.
Thank you.
Good?
We'll get away now that you're leaving. We'll get another one.
It's like everybody's your cousin.
Oh, my gosh.
Last junior linebacker, Ray Stovall.
What's going on?
Everyone's up for more questions.
I'm on.
One of the bright spots last week, I guess, was the defensive performance overall. What was kind of y'all's take of this game, and how do y'all keep that going, so to say, this week against Grambling?
We just have to get better. I mean, we did give up 300 rushing yards last week, which is not close to anything that, you know, we go for. Weekly we want to go for under 100 yards rushing, so obviously we have some work to do and some more time to put in. So we'll be doing a lot more stuff this week to get ready.
So how are you able, like, when you're looking back on film and gauging yourself against such a powerful offense that they were able to do some things, because you were gauging yourself against such a good team, how did that maybe magnify some of the things that you guys like to work on going into the home opener?
Regardless of who you play, most of the mistakes come from just mental things. When the tackle blocks down, you're supposed to shuffle, or go for the upfield shoulder when you're rushing, stuff like that. So when you don't do things like that, regardless of who you play, that's when you give up big plays. And a lot of, like me personally, I messed up on a few things last week, just technique stuff. So, but I'm gonna work on that this week for sure. Just a little stuff.
Since you're from Oklahoma, have you heard from people?
No. I talked to a few guys after the game that I'm familiar with, either went to high school with or played against, but since then, we haven't really had any communication.
What about just like the atmosphere and everything? Now, how do you think that, like Coach was saying, guys like Tevin, Higgins, and Pipkins have their own defense? How do you think that like getting that game out of the way will help acclimate them for the rest of the season? Kind of like whenever you went in last year for Cam against Baylor, and you had some of those big games.
Well, they should be good now. That it's just the best way to, to get ready is just to get thrown in there. And Tevin, he did make a few plays, and it was good to see. But I think everybody's ready to go. All the younger guys are. That helped them out a lot.
How great was it having Cam back also, and then for him to have as big a game as he did have?
It was great. 16 tackles is what I think they gave him. That's great playing next to.
What do you anticipate for this weekend? Like I asked Jyruss last year. Everybody showed up for the Baylor game, and had done some great things. And just kind of going into this week, do you feel like that everybody will show up again because they're still anticipating so many special things for this season?
I think that a lot of people are going to show up regardless of who we play, mainly because it's the home opener. You know, a lot of people, I mean, we didn't have that many people at the OU game, and it was on pay-per-view, so there's plenty of people that haven't got to see us play yet. So I think that there will be as many as last year for the Baylor game, roughly, just because they haven't seen us.
Do you have any cousins that play for
No, I do not have any cousins.
Do you have anybody that you know that just from being over here? I know you're from Oklahoma, but do you been over here for what, 4 years now?
Well, there's a girl that goes there that she used to dance at my high school, and so she's on the dance squad there. But that's the only person I know. Oh no! My girlfriend wouldn't be too happy about that. So.
You just got Ron point.
Any other questions for Ray? Thank you very much.